Hey, it's Tommy here at the Music Zoo. I'm here with 3 really cool pre-production Jackson soloists. A lot to talk about. Let's get into it. So the first of the 3 soloists I want to talk about is this guy. And these are all pre-serial guitars. And certain things to note on this one. This one is void of inlays, the first thing. Second thing on this guitar that probably makes it cool, and one of the other ones that's behind me right now, is that they were previously owned by a guy by the name of Nitebob. So if you follow rock and roll and hard rock and guitar players, he's a ever-present part of the guitar history. Bob was on tour with Aerosmith as their sound engineer for years, and Steely Dan. And spend time back in the early days. So you take Aerosmith, they're on the road in the 70s and early 80s, and when they have time off, they would go visit Charvel, or they'd go visit Jackson, or they may go visit Hamer or BC Rich, or all these different guitar factories. And as Joe Perry and Brad Whitford were buying guitars, so was Bob. He may have collected some of the coolest guitars of that era. So people know him from that, and they know him from, obviously, the music business. And he's an ever-present part of just like online and talking about these guitars. And this guitar was owned by him. And when he acquired the guitar, it actually came from Jackson without a finish on it. At that point, as the story was told to me, you could go in there and they'd have raw bodies hanging and things like that. And if they needed to sell a guitar, or somebody picked it up and went like, this is cool, I'll paint it myself, don't worry about it. So he left there either at the same time or not too distant apart with this guitar and the striped one behind me. And later on, they were refinished by the second owner, by Mike Learn. And Mike Learn's a longtime painter for Charvel and Jackson, and known in the guitar community as well. And he did a wonderful job on this with the hot rod flames, especially on the back. You don't see this that often. Little things to note about this guitar is, besides the no inlay and the hand-painted logo, it does have the crown head tuners on it. It seems like the headstock is a little bit smaller, very much like the Concords that we run here at the Music Zoo. As time went on, the headstock of the Jacksons, probably because they were breaking, started to get thicker, I guess, just to avoid breaking or whatever. This has the vintage trem on it, just one brass knob. Nothing but love. Let's talk about the next one. Okay, this one, let's get into it. So there's several things about this guitar that excite me early in the Jackson career. The first one you might note is the headstock. So this is more of a traditional Explorer headstock, which I bet you Grover and company found out that they probably couldn't run with this headstock too long, and they had to change it. So that's probably before they got a love letter from one of the other companies. But you won't see this headstock on many guitars, or many Jacksons, at least in this era. And this was an '81 guitar. And this originally was delivered with a Kaler in gold. And we have pictures somewhere of Tim Wilson, production manager of Jackson Charvel, longtime builder, was involved with Mike Shannon in building Randy's guitars. He was there from the very beginning. We have pictures with him when this guitar was gold. It also had a Kaler on it, so it was decalered and repainted also by Mike Learn. And other history, since the guitar was in '81 and is early, again, in that soloist history, no serial number, the second owner had the guitar resprayed by Mike, and they kind of followed the Harley Davidson motif in '81. And I'm not too much of a Harley guy, but what I can tell you about Harley is that at one point, Harley Davidson was owned by AMF, and then a group of people went and basically took the company back over, you know, like back and bring the original tradition of Harley back from this big, you know, like conglomerate company. And the owner wanted to reflect all this stuff since the year of the guitar was the same as when this happened and everything. So it's kind of like two motifs kind of combining together. No serial number on this. Guitar is cool as they get, with a great paint job and a great story. From also, this is also a Nitebob guitar too. So this was the second Bob guitar that went through him and then was acquired by our guy and redone. He picked another good one. Last but not least, another pre-pro soloist. This guy's got a lot of interesting things going on here. First of all, there's a hand-painted logo, crown head tuners, no inlay, 3 Duncan distortions, a varitone on here, out of phase switch, on off for each pickup. A lot of cool things going on. Really thin neck. Guitar's kind of weighty. And it also, at one point, had a Roland synth pickup at some point. This guitar was also featured in a magazine in Japan with the entire staff of Jackson standing around, and someone was holding this guitar. It might have been Mike Shannon. It's a long time ago. So this guitar's been featured in many pictures. There's a letter from George Gruen and its authenticity. There's a letter from Grover Jackson with this guitar, recalling the guitar and exactly what it was. We've gotten calls from so many people since they knew that we had this. I've heard from Tim Wilson, I've heard from Mike Shannon. It's a big piece of history, as well as the guitars behind me. Come get one while you can.